Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for episode 2 of Survivor 44. My name is Mike Bloom, back to open the proverbial bird cage, empty our bags, and see what exactly is inside. And we have a lot of fun to talk about. When it's a good Carolyn episode, it's bound to be a good episode of the B&B. Of course, I am here with two lovely dorky magnets in and of themselves, Liana Boraas and Maggie Morgan. Okay, everybody, quick, on the count of 3, throw up the letter. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, I went with that? B for B&B.
Oh, Liana I thought we were doing Wellen.
Or Wumbo.
I was about to say I did W for Wumbo.
Well, Carolyn's game is looking pretty wumbo at this point, rather than mini, as her stock has grown quite large, going from outside to insider over the course of this episode. And we have a lot to get into already. We are 3 hours into Survivor 44, and so far, all idols have been found, votes have been lost, big chaotic moves have happened. I mean, obviously, this was a much more straightforward episode compared to the 2 hours that came before that, but that is honestly not saying a lot, considering how wild the season premiere was. Maggie, I'll start with you. Even outside of episode 2, what have been your thoughts about this wild season of Survivor so far?
Oh, I'm having fun. You know, this is a character-heavy season, which is what I like, you know, and the same thing with Survivor 42. There was obviously great strategy, but when you think of Survivor 42, you think of the Mariannes, you think of the Omers, like you think of the people who were playing versus like the big strategic moves that happened. And that's what's bound to happen with this season. I'm having so much fun. I'm loving that. I'm so sorry. I am not going to remember the tribe name, so I'm just going to say colors. I'm loving the purple tribe. I'm loving that like Carolyn and Jam Jam are like these both like wild characters, and yet they are so strategically locked in and they see like a friend in one another. I'm like, this is the duo for the ages. Like they better go the distance. Like previous to this, my favorite duo, you know, like of the new seasons has been Shannon Ricard, and I might be going all in on Jam Jam and Carolyn.
Oh my gosh. I agree with you in terms of their partnership. I think it's so fun. I think also, you know, assuming that this format is the same as 43, we're not going to see a swap. So they're going to be able to stay together until merge if they manage to, you know, make merge together. That tribe, though, I'm hoping that they can like get their challenge chops together, because I don't want to see them continuously go. Although I do feel like those would be the two that would be left over. Right?
Yeah, well, that's true to Shannon Ricard. Like at this point, yeah, they just have to keep Carson on their side, vote out Sarah, and then they just team up and vote out Carson at that point. You know,
exactly.
Group hugs are nice, but they don't translate when it comes down to the 3 of you, and only 2 of you can survive.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
I was just going to say, like, and you know, they're the older people on the tribe. And I think that because they're the older people, the later days, like, honestly, Carson is underestimating them in the same way that they are like, oh, we got you wrapped around our finger with him. You know, I think that it's really interesting, the age difference and the age dynamic and how he does not see that as a negative for him. And you know what I mean? And sees it more as a positive for him.
They're only like 35 and 36. I looked it up. Okay. So.
Yeah. It's making me feel like my bones are turning to dust with every syllable you uttered.
To them. I am also closer in age to them than I am to Carson. Okay.
Well, Carson for the record. Right.
Carson's
20.
like 19.
Yeah. So he's, exactly.
Yeah, Carson's like a zygote, basically. Like a little sperm made its way onto the beach, and that's Carson. Just put glasses and a tank top on him.
Oh my God.
The point of what I was saying though is that like they are the more mature people on the tribe, because they are 35 and 36, and they like, because of Carson's, I think, age and perhaps a bit of inexperience, he's seeing that as like, oh, they're old and they don't know what they're doing, versus like they're older and they do know what they're doing.
I think it's a combination of that and also the fact that they are kind of kooky characters, right? They come across as a little bit, you know, more out there. The fact that Jam Jam was just like, yeah, I would just want to go hunting for the key, like, just because it's going to be fun. Like, let's go have fun. Let's go search for it. And sort of giving off that sort of facade, definitely you would think like, oh, these people don't have any strategic acumen, or, you know, they can't. So yeah, and I think also, again, I agree with you that Carson's inexperience probably is going to help to contribute to that as well, making those assumptions. We have just like a million things to talk about. One thing I want to say, like, big picture though, Maggie, off of what you said earlier, was the idea of the character heavy versus, you know, strategic heavy kind of seasons. Because I would even say that, like, even though this vote there was more strategicness to it, right? In terms of like, there's at least some logic behind decisions that are being made versus like, yeah, I'm just like randomly playing my shot in the dark because I'm paranoid. Even the decision wasn't even about the strategy. The decision was almost about like, what two people do I want to work with because of their personalities? Like, because my assumption was, and this came out in some of the exit press, Mike, I know like you talked about how Sarah had talked about, or Helen mentioned that Sarah had discussed sort of this like her inability to vote. And so if Carson, you know, remembered that, obviously then strategically he's not going to side with where he could be in a tied vote situation.
Yeah, you don't want to be a Chanel if you can help it, right? You don't want to essentially screw your allies by forcing a tie and then having to go down to an incident that they literally just saw before they went out onto the island.
And that was never part of the narrative at all. It was about which two groups of characters do I want to align with? Like, that seemed to be Carson's decision. So it's not so much even that you have these strong characters. It's that even the narrative that's being told isn't from a strategic perspective per se. It is from this character perspective of who are the people because of who these people are that I want to work with. And that seemed to come across to me in this episode.
Yeah, which is interesting from Carson's perspective, right? Because this is a guy who comes in, self-professed brains, right? Talks about all these analytics that he did, all these puzzles that he 3D printed, all these spreadsheets that he made. And at the end of the day, he woke up and chose chaos by saying like, yeah, but I'll go with the woman that's throwing leaves over her shoulder and the man who's fashioning himself palm frond hats. Like, I absolutely love it. And it goes to show why Survivor works as a format, because there are living, breathing people that are playing, right? That you can associate yourself with the gamers if you want to, but sometimes you just kind of want to work with the likable people that you get along with more. Not to say that he didn't get along more with Sarah and Helen, for instance. As you mentioned, Liana, I do think something that is understated about this vote was how much his hand was pretty much forced, right? It was either turn everyone against Sarah or submit yourself into a tie, in which case then you're in the Chanel position or the Daniel position where it's like, okay, well, now I guess I may be drawing rocks alongside some Jam Jam, essentially, where I think that he does seem to genuinely like them, at least from our perspective. We didn't get any confessionals saying that he didn't. I mean, listen, you don't force yourself into the oddest octopus-like group hug with two people if you don't just like them at least somewhat 5 days into the game.
A woman who's been covered in mud for the past 4 days. Yeah, just like
who covered. Also self-proclaimed told a story on national TV about getting wrist deep in shit.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh. We'll go back to that, I'm sure. But just to like clarify, I think what I was trying to communicate is not so much that Carson's decision itself was based on like what personalities I want to work with. I'm sure that's part of it. But I think it was purely based on like this strategic vote reason. But the show didn't characterize it that way. Like the narrative that was being told from the show was about the personalities, not about the strategic reason for Carson making the decision, which I do think was ultimately what caused him to side with Jam Jam and Carolyn.
It's a very valid point. And what I think is interesting is that 2 of 2 votes so far, and talking with both Maddie and Helen, there is this crucial unseen thing where an ally of theirs tells them about something that happened at the summit. With Maddie, it was the case of Lauren telling her about the bank of vote thing, that she wouldn't be voting at that tribal council, and that Brandon also knew about it. And so one of the reasons why Maddie went after Brandon wasn't just this entire kerfuffle, if you will, but this idea of, oh, I want to bring Lauren closer to me and get rid of someone else who knows this information, with Helen, as I just mentioned, it kind of screwed her over because she realized that one of her closest allies did not have a vote, period. And so Carson was essentially saying, okay, I either sacrifice Helen or face a tie where I have a 50-50 chance of going. So I do find it interesting that neither one of those things end up making the edit. I think to your point, Liana, maybe it's an idea of emphasizing personality because this cast is one of the more personality-filled ones we've got. Maybe it's them kind of obfuscating this idea of like, yeah, advantages are kind of screwing people's games a little bit, and we want to screw with their games in a certain way, not in this way.
Exactly. Yeah. Not in like a bad way, not in like a, I mean, I don't know. Do you think they embrace the knowledge is power, that it's so screwed up, like that they like that? Or do you think that they're upset with that from a production gameplay perspective?
What do you think,
I think
Maggie?
they want it to work. Like, I think that it's so screwed up. Like, I think it annoys them. I think they want someone to go in there and steal somebody's idol and use it.
Yeah, I think 100%. They, considering that, again, and including in this week's Jeff Probst On Fire podcast, they love Advantage Get-In, the Suri voting game changers, so much. They want trinkets and baubles and doodads and dingle hoppers to be thrown out at Tribal Council. They want wackiness and chaos to happen. That's the reason why they pumped up this premiere, right? Of just, oh, and there was an idol play and 2 shots in the dark and only 1 vote sent Maddie home. They love that wildness that can ensue from just a bevy of advantages existing in the game, which we'll talk about, I think, in a little bit with the whole triangle trade of idols that has been discovered this past week. So, yeah, I would fully expect one of the reasons why they keep trying to make knowledge is power work a la Gretchen Wieners is because they really want someone's idol to get stolen when they're about to play it.
Yeah. Wait, okay, hold on. So if someone plays an idol, how does knowledge is power work again?
So knowledge is power works where before any advantages and idols are handed in, someone can say, hold up, Jeff.
Steal it, right?
It's
never played.
It's Go Fish. You ask a specific person, do you have an advantage or an idol? And then they are forced to give it to you if they have it on their person.
Okay, I was trying to think how that would work the inheritance advantage, but you don't actually play the idol. You just get it stolen from you, or the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly play it. Like, you could essentially yoink someone's idol and then play it on yourself in that Tribal Council if you want to.
And then in the inheritance advantage, could steal that if it got played. Okay.
Exactly. Gotcha. So it could change hands between 3 different people over the course of one night.
Gotcha.
That's kind of fun. Sorry, am I a part of the problem?
Yeah. How dare you? You'd be on the podcast being like, yeah, I love Advantage Get-In. I love it.
No, I don't love Advantage Get-In. It's been on record. I've told the embarrassing story of the time I met Suri. Like, I love her so much. I don't love Advantage Get-In, but the idea of an idol going through 3 people is sort of,
I mean, to be fair,
that's exciting.
Isn't Suri on record saying that she herself was fine with Advantage Get-In? I mean, look, I think now she has a bit of money to play with. She's got some wumbos on her record, if you will, from other reality shows. So I think it stings a little less bitter the last time she played Survivor. But yeah, that's also a little tough to digest, right? That the person who suffered at the hands of Advantage Get-In likes it much more than the multitude of fans, ourselves included, who did not like the way she went out of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that overall, like, just in this new era, if we think of Survivor less about a game where people go out onto the island and they have to vote each other out based off of social dynamic. And you think of it more as people go out onto the island and they have to vote each other out. And there's all of these advantages that you have to work around, like landmines. Like, if you look at it, like, if you abandon sort of like the OG how it began, and I'm serious, and you look at it, like, you adjust your expectations and you look at it like, okay, this is a game where, like, yes, there's social dynamics, plus everybody has these trinkets, like, you have to figure out who's lying about what the deception is, then you're gonna have a better time. Because it is never going back to, like, no advantages, you know? And I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm, like, trying to adjust expectations so I don't end up texting Mike Bloom furiously at finales saying this is terrible. I'm turning the TV off.
That never happened. No, that's never existed. That conversation never happened.
Well, look, I mean, there are a lot of different ways you could approach the new era of Survivor. We could complain endlessly about it. We could try to embrace what's fun, or we can do a mixture of both, which is, look, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, but this is what we're given. If we have any power to change it, believe me, I'll be the first one there. But given the fact that the powers that be seem pretty set on some of the decisions that are being made, I feel like that it's not within my power. So I might as well just try to enjoy it as best I can and reframe a little bit. You know, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. Let's go with that.
Wait, what? Is that a phrase?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, here's your idol.
Nailed it. Yes.
And my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike?
Yeah, it's from a thing. It's like it's like a cooking show and they're talking about a carbonara. And then it's like, yeah, we're making carbonara. And then the guy's like, no, like my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. Like you can't just call it a carbonara.
Oh, I got.
I'll try to find the reference and send it to you.
I know exactly what you're talking about now, Liana. And like, the host was being so rude to this Italian chef who was there.
It's just such an odd image to me. Like, why your grandmother? This poor woman has probably been through so many things, and now she has to cart your ass around to the Piggly Wiggly and back. I don't want grandma bike.
Do you ride grandma bike, or do you like?
I'm not going to keep it in my garage. Like, if I have a grandma bike, I'm going to use her.
I don't know. She's like a sentient being. That's a weird thing we should put into AI art generator. Grandma bike.
That's a big would you rather, right? I heard a would you rather this past week that's like, if your food consistently screamed as you ate it, would you still eat it?
Oh my God.
What? Why would you bring that here?
Yeah. Have fun with your nightmares now, everybody, between sentient grandma bike and now screaming food.
I've already seen Sausage Party, okay? I did the whole...
All right, let me settle on a compromise. If your food made noise the way Carolyn did, would you still eat it?
Like
you bit into a burger and went, ah! Ah!
I think that would be pretty tough.
The problem is, like, what you're describing is the food being a sentient being and being able to feel pain, and you are inflicting direct pain on the food.
My assumption is that it's not screaming in pain. It's just more so like the sound it makes, you know? Like, I don't know, a doorbell.
Okay. No, I get it. Like, okay, so you eat a carrot. Carrots are really crunchy, right? You bite down, you go, right? It makes a little crunch sound. Or you bite into an apple and it goes, what if instead of the sound, it made the pain and anguish sound that Mike is describing? I think that would be a lot tougher to eat a carrot. And I eat a lot of carrots.
I think we'd have much more people going on to Survivor. They're like, great, 26 days without screaming food. Please give it to me. I don't want any rewards, Jeff. No fish for me, please.
Yeah, that's so terrifying. Dark. Thank you for putting that in my mental, Mike.
Well, I'd love to keep things on the weird train, but hopefully on a lighter note. Look, I'm not one to generalize geography, but Maggie, I will note that you are from the Midwest, as is the woman of the hour here in Carolyn. I would love to just hear from you, like, obviously, I wouldn't say, like, oh, everyone in the Midwest is just like her, but, like, do some of her mannerisms typify that region of the country, I say, as, like, an East Coast native?
Like, okay, the thing, I will say that Midwesterners do make random sort of, like, noises rather than using words. Like, we'll say, like, oh, when somebody's walking by or, like, something's happening. I think that sometimes rather than like assert ourselves and say like a word or phrase or like, stop, what are you doing? Oh my gosh. Like, we'll just sort of make like a sound, you know? But I think Carolyn is one of a kind, Mike. I don't know, many people I wouldn't say that my hometown was full of Carolyns.
So I don't I don't know many, if only one person who is like Carolyn, But my mother is very much like Carolyn. I think there's a reason.
Yeah, Carolyn is mother for you.
She is She is like literally mother. I think there's a reason why I just like I got her from the moment I started hearing her interviews and seeing her in clips and on screen. Because like even from the whole thing of like, I'm just going to want to touch all the rocks. I want to experience everything. That is my mom. Like my mom, I remember one time we were going into a Quiznos and my mom just all of a sudden had this like out of body experience and just like couldn't pay attention to anything and was just like, like reacting to all the things that were in the Quiznos. And I was like, okay, mom, what do you want to order? It was like, but it was like, as soon as we entered the Quiznos, she just like, something came over her. And then I like had to help her order and like help her get her food. And we left the Quiznos. She went back to being like normal as my mom can be. I don't know what that was about the Quiznos. I don't know like what was happening. I told this story before we got on air. One time my mom, it was when I was younger, we were on a flight and it's like one of the ones with the one big television screen, like not the little ones on each of the individual seats. And she just like got up, reacted to something and went, whoa, like made a weird noise and like pointed at the screen, like stood up and pointed at the screen, like in the airplane. And it was just like, mom, what are you doing? And she'll just like randomly talk to people and like makes a lot of weird noises, is like always talking to herself. Maybe not so much in the physical mannerisms, but definitely in the auditory, like noises, reactions, and those types of things. I think Carolyn is still a little bit more extreme than my mother is, but like, I totally get it. I totally get it. And my mom would absolutely 100% dig through my poop for a tooth. It's because she cares so much. Because I know everybody's like, oh, you're the tooth fairy, don't you know? Like you can just put it. No, it's about the child. Okay. Carolyn cares so much about her child that like, because of course, like you're a kid and you're excited about the tooth fairy and like you want to get the money from the tooth fairy and you think I can't get the money from the tooth fairy because I swallowed my tooth and my tooth is gone. And she is like so caring and loving that she is willing to do that for her own child. Like, oh, just everything about Carolyn I totally love. I totally relate to. And the wackiness is just par for the course for me. I'm just so used to that kind of behavior. And she really is my internal monologue so much of the time.
Monologue.
My monologue. Yes, because my mom bought me a magnet that's like, sometimes I open my mouth and my mother comes out. Like, as much as I don't want to admit that I am my mother, I am my mother. I make weird noises. I would stand up and react and go blah to the screen. But I have trained myself to really try not to do that. And so it's so freeing to see someone like Carolyn just react and just like be herself and be so authentic and not masking. And I think that that's really wonderful to see. And I'm obsessed with her and I love everything about her. So it's fine.
100%. And listen, I don't want to dote too much on the fact that your mother seemed to be possessed by a spirit within Quiznos.
Yeah, it was weird.
An entirely different conversation. I don't know if like a Pazuzu came out of the urban cheese bread and flew into your mother's mouth for that 15 minutes. But I completely agree that I think Carolyn's authenticity shines through so much. And that's why, like, I put out a tweet over the course of the episode that I believe in 44 seasons of Survivor, in 600 plus contestants, that Carolyn is the weirdest person to ever play. And I say that with a capital W, with all the love in the world, because like you said, I think what puts her above, for me, a coach or a Philip or a Debbie is that authenticity. I really do not feel like Carolyn's playing up things for the camera. I cannot say that about the other three. I think especially with Coach and Philip, and especially in a post-Coach world, I do think certain people are like, oh, I can get more camera time by coming up with these goofy gimmicks. I don't think that's the case with Carolyn. I don't think Carolyn's getting down on the ground and doing a synchronized swimming routine when she finds an idol out of camera time. I think that is just Carolyn for Carolyn's sake. And I really adore that in a day and age where reality TV feels like it just permanently has this kind of Vaseline veneer on it, like RuPaul's Drag Race season 1, where everyone is now kind of hyper aware of the cameras because we live in a day and age where like we have cameras on our phones. We can film each other all the time. It is so refreshing to have someone come in there and, in my opinion, be able to show like 100% how they would be in real life. And that sparkles through so wonderfully.
I think also she just allows herself to be. And like those moments with the throwing the leaves of the shoulder, like that was just like sometimes you just feel so many emotions. You just have this like you express it physically, and sometimes that means laying down and rolling over. And I don't think she was even thinking about it, like the throwing the leaves over the shoulder. Like she just spilled salt and she's trying to like remove the curse, right? So I think that is very fun. I'm so curious to see how that type of personality plays out within the strategic elements of the game. And we started to see this in this episode with the idol and how she reacts to that, and how she initially went and took it and then realized, oh no, I need to go lock the cage. I should put something back, but she does it really quickly. And you know, how she goes about making decisions within the strategic confines of the game.
Yeah, Maggie, any additional thoughts you have on? I mean, listen, we could do an entire podcast, I think, about Carolyn, specifically in this episode, which was all about her. I will say, I think with this episode, I think it's been largely positive reception, but I do think this is one of those episodes where it's like, hey, if you love Carolyn, you're going to love this episode. Mm-hmm. If you do not like Carolyn, you are not going to like this episode. Because I would say she was about 75% of it, between finding the idol, between being the target for the losing tribe as well. Like, it was a lot of Carolyn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but we can't forget our other favorite people on the season. My other favorite people. Last time I was here, I talked also about like a showmance. And who have I become? Like, am I the problem? I'm realizing, like, I'm saying, well, it would be fun if there was a crazy advantage thing that happened. I'm like, well, a showmance is really fun. Like, who am I?
Should I stop sending your isolated tracks to Jeff Probst? Is that what you're saying? Because I have been doing that.
Yeah, suggestions.
I don't know. I'm sorry to all of the true fans out there. I really think I am a true fan, but I mean, how cute can you get?
Oh, this is, it's so good.
Cute. It's so cute.
And his big long rod, so cute. And Ernest the bug, they're the newly adopted baby. It's so cute.
I adore them so much that like they genuinely seem to just like have so much adoration for each other. I do not think it has turned anything relatively romantic. I think Matt's also coming from a rough place here. I did not realize. I'm actually a little surprised now looking back at my preseason press how much this guy wasn't like, yeah, I just went through a recent breakup. Though I guess he was talking in his preseason press, right? Like how much he loves to learn from failure. And I guess that's an example of this, perhaps, of like, I failed romantically and now I can find a new space. I found love in a hopeless place.
Wow. Yeah, that's sad. Matt, I hope you're doing well. I hope that they're together. Oh my God. If they are, sorry to them if this is making you uncomfortable.
Sorry for you.
Everybody talk about it. But you guys are stinking adorable. I don't like what does Rob always call it? Schmoopy talk. I don't like showmances where there's schmoopy talk and they're just two boring hot people looking at each other. I like showmances when the people have personality and like chemistry and there's like a will they, won't they. Like that's fun for me.
Yeah, but this is Matt B's like, I will. I am there.
I do.
I do. It was a little bit.
I will say when he was in the confessional and he was like, and I think she likes me too. I was like,
well, there was a moment when he's like, can I confess something to you? And I'm like, are we starting the baseball game right now when one team is still warming up? We haven't even taken the tarps down yet, Matt. So I'm glad it hasn't gone that far. Now, the question is, if there is, God help us, if there is an opportunity where things fall apart, does she get Ernest the stick bug? Does Matt have yet another pet taken away from him?
Oh no.
I don't know if he can handle that.
Yeah, I don't think he can handle it either. Based on what seemed to be like the verge of a breakdown out on the island, I would be very nervous. She should just give him the stick bug out of courtesy to like help him keep his mental together. Matt. So first of all, I love this too. This was so funny, mainly just because of Matt. And this is again goes back to authenticity. Like Matt was being authentically himself when he was talking about how he feels about this relationship, how he feels about Franny. It felt like might be niche, but there's like a TikTok sound. There's a rap called The Search by NF, and it's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm all right. and then I'm feeling about this, blah, blah, blah. And like, he goes on this whole rant, and it's sort of like, you just tried to ask like, hey, how's it going? And you expect the answer to be like, oh, good. And then they actually give you the real answer, which is like, well, my girlfriend broke up with me, and then she got the dog, and I'm really distraught about it, but it's okay because I have someone new who I love, and I'm like really obsessed with her, and we have a stick together. And it's just like, okay, like put the brakes on. We just met. Matt B, we just met. Okay, like let's chill down. But that was just really fun to watch. And again, love him being his authentic self and sharing all of his feelings because it makes for fabulous television.
Matt kind of reminds me of Mr. Peanut Butter from BoJack Horseman, in that he does have that like dog-like energy. And even when his life kind of sucks, like he came from this bad breakup, he lost his dog. He can't vote basically for the rest of the pre-merge, and assuming however many rounds are happening. But he still is like really smiley and bobbing his head in confessionals. Like he just has that energy about him that still, even in the worst circumstance, he's going to just look up and look over at Franny and ask if it's a crossover episode.
It did feel, though, a little bit like, yeah, I'm like, it's okay, but like, I'm just crying inside every day. Just one of those like moments that I was expecting him to come out with. But yeah, I mean, look, if Jeff Probst is rooting for them, which I assume they are the showmance that he alluded to, then I will root for them as well.
I root for cute love.
Aww.
So then how do you feel about the Claire side of things? Is she a necessary foil here in this relationship?
Oh, yeah, I mean, Claire is iconic. Like her stank face when she's like looking at them being cute over there. I'm like, I am you if I was out there. Like I'm at home, I'm like cute. But if I'm out there, I'm like, no. Absolutely none of this. This cannot be.
I wanted to see more of the Franny Claire conversation, because obviously Claire is having this very like no mask on reaction to what is going on. So I want to know, because it felt more like Franny was saying, yeah, no, I know we need to like not hang out so much. I wanted to hear more of Claire's thoughts, like not just the facial reactions, because I imagine she has so many thoughts about them.
Yeah, the only thing we get is flat out in that conversation, Franny says, yeah, I think I'm going to talk to him a little bit less. She goes, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd love to hear a bit more of that advice. I mean, what is interesting is that there was a secret scene last week that showed Claire connecting with both Franny and Matt. So it could have been also something out of like strategic necessity, less so about throwing a cold bucket of water upon the hot embers of love that are brewing at Soka Camp. And more so this idea of like, hey, if I'm in an alliance with both of them and they are gravitating towards one another from a magnetic perspective, I don't want to get pushed out. So let me try to cool things down as much as possible.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think it's, and I think this was discussed on Know-It-Alls, but like the idea that if you have a pair, I mean, that's actually really, I mean, because you have to get 4 other people, right, to go against them. So if you're the third in that pair, like that's a pretty good spot to be in. So I could understand if Claire would want to go along with that, maybe less than try to break them up. But I don't know. There was that other moment with Claire with Jeff at the immunity challenge that was so weird that like I just have to bring it up. Like, one, why was it included? Like, what does this mean when Jeff says, so Claire decides to sit out again, or is told, I don't know, unclear. And Jeff is like, is that both? Yeah, exactly. Is that a volunteer or is that a tribe decision? And she goes, both. And then he goes, what does that mean? Why would you include that in the final edit? Like, what are you trying to tell me with this information?
Well, I'm confused as to why she was allowed to. Like, how many episodes of Survivor have I watched in a row where Jeff says same people can't sit out back-to-back challenges?
All right, let's talk about this. Yeah, so let's go. This is semantics, because actually, Liana, when you were talking about this, the last time I was thinking where this ended up becoming a bit of a plot point was Survivor Philippines, where Tandang kept winning all the Tandang challenges. And so Abby Maria kept sitting out challenge after challenge, which Jeff Probst made a point of mentioning. So I don't know if it's just like the villainess type of edit for Claire of like, oh, they're going to talk about how she has a bit of an attitude and she's more than fine sitting out. But listen, she has cited the fact that queens do sit out challenges. So I'm not complaining too much. Sandra and Courtney.
If I'm out there, I'm sitting out every possible thing.
She's the self-proclaimed czar of laziness. It would go against her brand to actively participate in the challenge.
Those nets that they had to tumble down, that we saw Jam like tumble, I was like, I would not get Courtney mooned. I would not break my knee. I'm sitting that out.
I did love, there was not the nets, but there was one shot, I don't know if you noticed, of Jam Jam going down the ramp where he just looked like he, a la Brandon, just passed out in the middle of the challenge and was gravity was doing the job for him. Like ragdoll.
I think that was gift on Reddit, and it was like he was the Messiah because his arms were like straight out to the side, so he was like, like sliding down. It was so funny.
Yeah, Jam Jesus. Yes. But to go back to that point, so basically what it is typically if there are 2 challenges in an episode, back-to-back challenges refers to that. When a tribal council happens, the cycle begins anew. So technically, even though these challenges are back-to-back and that they occur in back-to-back episodes, because there's a tribal council in between, it basically refreshes and you're allowed to sit it out.
Boo. That feels like a technicality that should not exist.
Yeah, basically, you can't sit out 2 challenges in an episode is what the rule essentially amounts to.
Unless it's a double episode with a tribal in between.
So no wonder I haven't really heard the ADR of Jeff saying that recently because they stopped doing reward challenges.
Yeah, they'll throw a couple in there. I mean, hell, he mentioned one of the reward challenges in his podcast, right? About the hidden advantage that was inside the fish that Jonathan accidentally threw into the ocean.
Fun.
The other thing from the challenge was Matthew taking his arm out of the sling, and like it was very purposeful, the being like, I disobeyed doctor's orders to take my hand or to take my arm out of the sling to do this. And it felt like that move was being applauded. And maybe it was like the fact that he practiced the challenge that was being applauded, not so much that he disobeyed doctor's orders. But I kind of feel like that's not the type of behavior you want to like commend people on about like, yeah, I didn't do what I was supposed to take care of my body, which could cause further irreparable damage. But whatever, I won a challenge on Survivor.
We're anti-science.
Yeah, I was like,
that's so, like, this is Probst's attitude for everything. Like, he's like, oh, you're sitting out. You don't want to push your body to the limit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, yeah, you were so obsessed with Survivor, you built a thing. Like, I mean.
Okay, thank you. That is what I was trying to get at with what my theory is, which is this overall narrative of like, what Survivor is pushing is you have to physically push yourself on the game of Survivor, specifically in challenges. And like doing things that don't allow you to push yourself physically is like a bad thing. Maybe that's why they keep using that shot of Matt falling off the rock, because they're like, you have to do this. This is what we want out of our new era Survivor players, is like this extreme physicality of pushing your body and like doing all these things. It seems like a very weird narrative to try to go with, but like, if that's what they're trying to go with, not my favorite, but okay.
I mean, how many years has Jeff Probst been saying dig deep? Like, that is the physical manifestation of that, right? It's like,
yeah, I know, but this feels like more so than just that. Like, it's more so than just like, you got to push yourself. It's like, I'm taking time to purposefully critique. And yes, there have been moments of this before, but it just felt like it was concentrated in this one episode of like purposely being like, that's great that you pushed yourself against doctor's orders and you are the worst for sitting out of a challenge. Like, it's a combination to 1-2 punch, probably those two things that made me like really think of this.
What do you think about the fact that, hey, I mean, impressive in Matthew, disobeying medical orders or not, to do the maze essentially in one try. Maggie, where are you on, should they keep using the same puzzles again to give the advantage to those who are able to practice, like an Evie, like a Matthew? Or do you feel this should be a sign that they should be doing all new puzzles so that everyone's on equal playing ground?
Is anybody saying like they should keep using the same puzzle over and over again? Like, is that a theory?
I think
like,
some people
is
are
a school of thought.
I think some people are actually. I mean, listen. It's a wide world of fans out there. So of course, every even fringe opinion has at least one person throwing their hand up saying, "I believe in that." But I think some people argue that it's one of those things that like rewards watching the show and practicing beforehand, right? Like the fire making challenge. Like, okay, there's a fire making challenge now at Final Four. So if you're practicing for it beforehand, you're going to be rewarded hopefully in turn. So some people feel like okay, this does help give advantages to the super duper fans out there who are able to have the abilities to mass produce these puzzles and practice them ahead of time.
My thought about it is that, like, yeah, the two-handed, bring up the ball thing, like, it's not a new concept. Like, we saw Frankie Grande win it by himself in Big Brother 16, like, but just don't use the same snake. Like,
what was more
reimagine-
impressive, Matthew here with one arm or Frankie Grande with no beast mode cowboy?
It was easier for him without Beast Mode Cowboy. Like when Beast Mode Cowboy like plopped his butt down on the sidelines, Frankie just like whipped through that thing.
Who would have thought that'd be the first of many moments in reality TV where Beast Mode Cowboy would plop his butt down on the ground and challenge?
Yeah, at least he didn't get evacuated there.
That's why Big Brother is the superior show, that we are earnestly talking about a man named Beast Mode Cowboy.
Ernest! Oh, here he comes!
Yay! Oh, man.
You think is Ernest going to be the new Mark the Chicken? Do you think he's going to come to Final Tribal Council if Franny or Matt makes it there?
I think it's harder to keep track of a stick bug than it is a chicken. So I feel like Ernest, unless they have a cage for Ernest, he's already on his merry way.
Well, let's get into talking about some more specific things from this episode. Let's go to our preseason predictions for Helen, who was projected to do fairly well from a lot of people. Of course, I know during the draft, one of Shannon's big picks, and she certainly was not the only one. A lot of people drafted Helen fairly high, something that she apologized to the fans about in my interview with her, in which I say, like, why are you apologizing? Like, you have nothing to apologize about. That A, you had a skill set that people thought was a Depth 4 Survivor winner, and B, in finding out more things about this vote, you kind of went out due to freak circumstances. Again, there is always an out. She could have maybe tried to throw a bunch of votes onto Sarah instead of her to try to salvage that and then maybe hope for a 2-2 later on. But Maggie, what did you think about Helen over the course of her 5 days in the game?
I mean, I think that, like, same as her and Maddie, like, they just got so screwed by this 3-tribe format. And, it's really hard to watch these seasons because with the 3 tribes, because I don't disagree with that strategy. If I was out there, I would be looking at, like, I remember last season, what was his name? I think Ryan was on one of the tribes and, like, pulling that, like, 100-pound snake essentially by himself over the big wall. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if I was on his tribe and we lost, like, there would be no discussion that Ryan would be going anywhere. Like, just the people who are physically adept and physically strong just have such an advantage because they are genuinely necessary. And, sometimes you do get these badass women who, people like Denise, who on Survivor Philippines in that 3-tribe format, like, it was her and Malcolm standing because she was, like, she was a bigger challenge asset than even Malcolm sometimes. But if I was out there, I would be first looked at. Like, I wouldn't be able to do any of these challenges in any sort of meaningful way. So I think that really sucks for these more petite women, just because they're at such a disadvantage.
Well, and the 6-person tribe obviously doesn't help either.
Yeah, that's the 3-tribe format.
That's
what
it
I'm
didn't help that in this case it was already a 5-person tribe, right? So like they essentially already wrote off Jam Jam and Carson, essentially, right? Carson partially because she was with them, but like him and Jam Jam are the only essential parts of physical strength left in Bruce's absence. And we've already seen so far how many challenges have at least one component of, like, lift a heavy object, move around heavy puzzle pieces. And so, like, that guarantees both of their safety. There was a world where they target Jam Jam instead of Carolyn, especially if they suspect that Carolyn has the idol, but they outright wrote him off, saying, like, yeah, we need him to haul some things around.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't disagree with them. If I was out there, I'd be like, we do need him to haul things around.
I think it's so tough because, the one way to avoid getting voted out is to not go to tribal. So ultimately, if that is your top priority, which I do believe it should be, then you are prioritizing those that have, are going to be able to contribute in challenges. But as we saw with Maddie on Ratu, if we start this precedent of the women going out, that's going to screw us over. So I feel like if you are a smaller player, you are inherently in this a really bad disadvantage. And like, it's not even, you could make an argument for, well, maybe not. No. I think it's so clear, especially now that we've seen this play out for, you know, 3 seasons is the 4th one, right? So it's tough. It's tough. And I think it adds to why I think we should go back, personally, I think, to the 2 tribe format to help to prevent this.
Should smaller people, because even outside of like the Maddies and the Helens, we had someone like Zach in season 42, right? Essentially get targeted because he was the skinnier guy. Should they wear like muscle suits out there? Or like, you know how you wear pinstripes sometimes to make yourself appear taller? Like, should their visual language, should their body language make them appear as tall and buff as possible?
What was it called on SpongeBob when he would blow up his arms?
Yeah, anchor arms.
Anchor arms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I was thinking George Michael from Arrested Development with the suit. Yeah, the frontispiece. Yeah, definitely. I think that would be a good thing to do. Now, will production okay your latex bodysuit? I don't know. How is that going to perform in the water when you're swimming? I don't know. So I think that's definitely something to consider. Lifts in your shoes, perhaps, could be another option. Try to just give yourself a little bit of height, make yourself look bigger.
Spike your hair up like Bart Simpson.
Exactly. Yes, a full mohawk.
I also think that, like, if we're talking about this, and it's a situation where you don't go to tribal. Like, if you're on that green tribe and you're somebody like Claire who's been sitting out, you now have had 2 tribal councils where you had the time to actually make the strategic inroads with your tribe. So I think that if you don't go to, like, if you are a more petite player, man or woman, if you are a smaller player who is not going to be contributing to the challenges in as meaningful a way as somebody like Danny or Ryan. But you have the time to make those strategic inroads. I think that you are in a much better position than if you have to go to tribal on that first day. You know, like, I think that if the green tribe does go to a tribal, Claire will be in a much better position than she would have if they went on that very first day.
Well, the other thing too about that is, let's say pre-merge is going to have 6 people-ish.
Probably. I don't know if they're gonna do an early merge. Remember, they did the merge at like 13 last season, but they also had Bruce's unconventional medevac, so they might go back to like 12 for the merge.
Okay, so let's make the assumption that 6 people are going to be gone. 3 people are already gone. Okay, and you're going into your, let's say, 4th immunity challenge. You look around your tribe and you say, look, I've got 3 solid allies here. If we lose the next 3, I'm okay with that. And then that also makes your decision a little bit easier, because if you're thinking like, I got to make it through 6 votes to make the merge. Yeah, of course you're going to prioritize challenge strength. But if you feel like you are really solid with the people that you have, you're maybe more willing to then be like, yeah, that's fine. We'll just sacrifice challenge strength because I need these people.
Should you pull a Richard Hatch and just around camp sit in a tree, or like consistently stand on the higher slope of land so that you appear to be bigger than you actually are?
Yeah, this is a corporate strategy as well. You get the chair that's slightly higher, you know, so that you're kind of like looking down. Posture, very critical here. You know, gotta sit up straight, make your body look taller. Yeah.
I mean, Mike's like, yeah, Mike, I think that it also has to do with like your attitude. You know, if you feel like you're a bigger presence,
girl boss energy. Yes.
I think what you can do is walk around and talk in a very deep voice, and every time you step, you go
Elizabeth Holmes. Yeah.
I think you have to pretend like you're like a giant version of yourself. Like, pretend that when you're stepping, you're making giant noises. You're saying, "Oh no, I crushed the crab with my bare feet. I'm so big and tall."
Like full Ant-Man when he goes giant status.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking around. Or Sasquatch, perhaps.
Go full Bunyan, in my opinion. You know, just pretend you're a larger-than-life character in both stature and personality.
I'm so excited for someone to try out that strategy. I'm giant.
It's me, Giant Harold. You can't vote for Giant Harold. Jeff, I can't use this pen. It's too small for my big hands.
Is that like a monologue to the camera, like Carolyn critiquing set design? Or do you say that in front of because it's more important that you do it in front of your tribe mates, right? That you exhibit your giantess behavior.
So then, and you bring like big goofy clown shoes that you leave around. Oh, these must be my shoes that I left around.
Big meaty claws. Oh my gosh, this is such a SpongeBob reference heavy B&B today.
Listen, Carson's all for it. That's his age bracket.
Oh my God. But you need also tiny things to make your hands look bigger. Like, the picture of Shaq where he's like holding a regular size Coke and the Coke looks super tiny. You need like tiny items to be like, this is a 12-ounce soda. And it's like actually only 4 ounces.
Okay, I like this actually. I think the wardrobe that you choose, because we'll talk about wardrobe later, should purposely be shrunk. So you bring on like an extra small shirt. You're like, this doesn't fit on me. Why did production pick this?
No.
Be careful, Mike. Bruce.
Yeah. Liana and I have the same grade.
Is that why Bruce went out? He tried to go he went full Bunyan in the very beginning of the game, and he got concussed as a result.
No, his shirt was too small. He couldn't dive as deep as he wanted to because his shirt got caught.
What are some other like tall people things? Like, what do tall people do?
Oh, I think your luxury item should be a basketball.
Yeah, you can be like, you played basketball. You can just be like, well, I don't know. People are always saying, how's the air up there? Yeah. I don't know. As a tall person, I should know these things.
I think what you do is you purposely construct a pantry for your tribe, and you say, does anyone need help reaching for the top shelf?
Yes, and you can tell stories about that. You can be like, well, when I'm in the grocery store, the young ladies are always asking for help, and the grandmas and the whatnots from the top shelf, right? Like, you just kind of go with all of those types of things.
Yeah, listen, if my grandma was a bike, she'd have wheels, and if I had rungs, I'd be a ladder.
That is what they say.
All right, well, let's get into our predictions for Helen. On that note, Liana, were you one of the many who had high prospects for Helen preseason?
Okay, so I did have her making the jury.
Mm-hmm.
However, here was my prediction for her. I said that Helen would be on the outs early on Tika, but due to Ratu being a hot mess, they avoid Tribal in the pre-merge. I think they go to 1 in my predictions. But anyway, so after the Bruce boot come merge, the players move on from a physical threat to a strategic threat in Helen. So she would be booted for being a strategic threat. And then I said she would go to Sackrock Island and get an advantage that hurts her more than helps her. Her ally was Sarah and her enemy was Claire.
Ah, well, I mean, she didn't go to Sackrock Island, but certainly someone close to her, namely Sarah, did, and that ended up screwing her over.
Yeah, so the transient property of advantages, I think that counts.
So I also had Claire making the jury. I said
Helen
that
making the jury.
Well, yeah, I guess I just had Claire on the brain, I suppose. She's standing tall in my mind right now.
Well,
so
she's
I
getting
had
stuff off shelves, so
yeah, Helen makes the jury. I said that her plan to be an airhead immediately goes out the window when she's put on the Savvy Challenge on day 1. I said that her minesweeper skills will allow her to quickly diffuse any personality conflicts on Tiva, serving as the go-between in between different factions. And despite saying that she constantly gets lost, she'll be guiding her tribe during a blindfold challenge. Oh, I forgot about that. That Helen's like, yeah, I'm not going to look for advantages because I get lost all the time. So like, I don't know what I would be doing. And we already know from the Keen story, right? How much people were like, well, he wasn't looking for firewood.
If only Carson had heard her say that at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
She wouldn't be looking for advantages.
I know. See? But the body language expert in Carson.
If you have your arms crossed and you're receded in, you've got an idol there. I love Jam Jam's just like, well, if I were Sarah, I would stuff everything in my cleavage. So therefore she has something in there.
Yeah, I love that. She keeps touching her chest, so she's got to have an idol in there.
And I also said that Helen's perception of intelligence unfortunately catches up with her when she becomes one of the first betrayed by her alliance post-merge, because you can't spell lie without L-I. I said her ally was Carson, her enemy was no one, and the randomly generated phrase I had for Helen was, I'd rather be a bird than a fish.
Yeah, same. I agree. Actually.
I agree with that. I'd much rather fly than swim.
Same. Similar, but
Plus, Jeff Probst ain't hiding no advantages in birds.
Ew. Yeah, less microplastics also. So,
All right, Maggie, it is in your hands, much like it was with Carson. In your big, meaty hands. Who between Liana and I was more accurate on Helen?
I think you, Mike, for the simple fact that you were like, she's going to have to abandon her airheadedness because she has to do the savvy challenge. I literally audibly was like, wow.
Carolyn style?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
wow. That's fair. That's fair. I agree with that.
Sorry, Liana.
No. I mean, yeah, look, Mike nailed it. We both had jury, and then with the savvy, you gotta reward that.
Yeah, and Helen won a reward from that as well due to her savviness. Before we get into the game, can we talk briefly about this idol thing? Because I would love to get both of your thoughts, because we now have all official birdcage idols have been found. Danny and Carolyn were able to do what Ratu could not and find an idol on their own without the entire tribe being there. And we found that they looked a little different. And this initially caused some confusion, even from yours truly, as to like, well, Danny said that his coin was a fake. Carolyn said her coin was real. So did she get mixed up in true Carolyn fashion? But much like we've spoken about, I think that we are underestimating her brains here. And I did some deep diving. I went through the couple of episodes and I compiled them all into a video that I put up on my Twitter, that it seems like with the birdcage idols, of course, every birdcage comes with a real idol and a fake idol. And indeed, it seems like each tribe's fake idol is actually the real idol for another tribe. So, for example, for example, with Ratu, Brandon, obviously, his real idol was like the janky beads on the string, and the fake was like this garishly large medallion that we saw for a hot second. On Sokka, it seems like the garishly large medallion is Danny's real idol. His fake idol is the little like $50 on the string. And then in Tika, Carolyn is indeed correct that the coin is real for her and the little beads on the string are fake. And so that's going to make things very, very interesting once people start talking to each other.
Yes. So obviously the payoff of this is when all sort of 6 pieces come together at the merge. Because if it is played or if it is known, you can be like, oh my God, you have the beads? Yeah, that's the idol, right? When in reality, if it's Tika's, for example, then that would be fake. However, we had Ratu all open it together, knowing one piece is fake and one piece is real. And so I think that doubt, if that information can sort of seep around, then I think it's going to sort of destroy the whole like questioning or strongly believing that one of the fake idols is real, because you know that there's fakes floating around. So whether or not, and because they're all, as you mentioned, it's like a triangle, they're all different. It's not like, oh, there's 2 tribes where they're just flipped. There's 3. So it's like, oh no, the Sokka one didn't have the beads, right? It just had the coin. Oh wait, okay, so then let's think this through. So I think it's a disservice that they know. I think it's actually going to come to light if they can have the information and put the pieces together. But I do like the idea.
And I do think that like there could be some fun possibilities there. I mean, the problem is like a lot of times on Survivor, when all of the merged tribes come together, they don't talk to each other as much as we think that they are. Like I feel like all the time we're like, oh, this is all gonna come out, and then people in their exit interviews are like, yeah, like I never even heard that, and you're like, oh dang it. But like I think that there's some fun opportunity if they know that there's fakes. If say Danny is aligned with, or Caroline and Jam Jam, say that they both know that Carolyn has an idol. She hasn't hidden the fake one. She still has the fake one. Jam Jam could be like, Carolyn, give me the fake one, and I will go around saying I have the real one and showing it to people, and we'll confuse the heck out of everybody because they won't know who has the real one. Like, I think that there's like a real Rupert with the rocks in his pocket, make people think that you have an idol situation that could happen strategically versus somebody actually having the fake one being like genuinely thinking it's real. I think that there's some 3D chess to be played here with it.
But there's also the other side of that, which is if Carolyn, or it seems like Danny, maybe had already done this. Like, if you leave the fake in the birdcage, and the thing is, as well, if you notice, each idol has a different note attached to it. So theoretically, you could attach the "congratulations, you found a hidden immunity idol" note to the fake one, put it in the birdcage, rehide the key, or just like leave it unlocked, and then when someone peeks in there, they, a la Jason Siska, get tricked into thinking that they found an idol. And on that note, it's tough. I'm of a couple of minds of it. Like, I think it's really fun and clever, and certainly sends people's heads spinning. Like Liana said, I think a bit of the rain on the parade here is the fact that one entire group of people does know what RHAP2's fake idol is and might be able to put things together if they have perfect information. But I think it is interesting, at least, to like, sort of like back in the day when they tried to make sure that all the idols look different, to like not automatically default to, well, this doesn't look like mine, so therefore it's not a real idol. Or to have it the other side say, wait a minute, oh, those are beads, that's definitely a real idol. Oh my God, okay, that means we have to work around this, when like, no, they're actually bluffing with fake idols. I think what this doesn't help for me is what I said last week about the way they fixed the summit this year, which is just how unfair it is to people who don't have this information. I mean, we saw it play out, the echoes of which this week, right? That like, had Sarah not gone on to that summit and was forced into a 67% chance of losing her vote, Helen probably doesn't go here. Like, just as a result of her getting on the boat, Helen ends up getting screwed over a few days later. Now, again, there are other circumstances. Like we said, she was suspected of having the idol. She was less close to Carolyn and Jam Jam, et cetera, et cetera. But still, it is a bit of falling dominoes. And I don't know how I feel about, because this was talked about in Australian Survivor as well this past season, like the idea of producers actively putting fake idols into the game to trick players, because it's never been done before. And I feel like players' imaginations can only go so far, that it does feel like a bit of deception on their part purposely, to be like, well, you're not going to expect that we would plant a fake idol in there. Now, luckily, again, that gets a bit obfuscated by the fact that one entire tribe knows that a fake idol is out there. But I do feel a bit for these players, once again, that they're in a position where someone could find the idol with a note and legitimately think it would be real, not even realizing, oh yeah, production also planted a fake idol as well that people could use to throw off others.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what Maggie was saying at the beginning, that is just like reframing the show in that it's not, it is more about the landmines, which a pity Helen went out too early. She would be very good at avoiding, is more like avoiding all of these traps, essentially. And unfortunately, the fake idols then get included as part of that.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move on. I am really excited, though, to see what happens with this, because there's also a really fun, like, almost Cassandra from Greek mythology idea as well, about someone like Carolyn specifically having the idol, because like we said, I think her personality can both hopefully, and a bit against her as well, mask perhaps some of the stuff that she is doing behind the scenes. Like, if she comes saying like, no, you don't realize that one's a fake because I got this note and this one's real, and there's actually a triangle thing going on, people might legitimately say like, oh, Carolyn, nobody believes that, when lo and behold, her logic may be 100% correct on it.
She's there like the whole Charlie Day with all the pictures and the string and stuff. Like, no. And they're all alternating. And we're like, okay, Carolyn, that's great. Good for you. The one other thing I want to talk about before we do our activity is Danny.
Okay.
Because we have not discussed Danny yet. I feel like he's someone who, while yes, it was all wrapped up because of the whole idol thing, I'm so happy we got to see more of him.
I agree.
All of the random quotes, which I wrote down a few of them because they really made me so happy. I'm always doing something. And when I'm doing something, I'm doing something else. I just love that. I love that.
The whole wallet, phone, keys, bamboo, palm fronds idol thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the best way to find an idol, but I know the worst way, and that's not looking. The flossing dance that he did, like he's the backpack kid before we went to commercial. Fantastic. absolutely fantastic. I hope he lasts a little bit longer so we get to see more of whatever Danny is going to do, because I was very happy to see it in this episode.
Now, it's interesting because there was a secret scene on EW this week where Sokka, despite winning so much, did end up losing their machete. There's a non-zero chance that while Danny was doing his happy dance, he just flung the machete into the deep recesses of the jungle and they couldn't get it back, because that would have to garner a million questions from everyone else.
I feel like he would admit that he was flossing, right?
I don't know. Maggie, do you have any thoughts on Danny? Because I do agree. I think he came alive in this episode in many ways, between finding the idol and I think getting to explore a bit more of that very excitable personality.
Yeah, I need to see a little more of Danny before I feel like I can fully make this comparison. But he he reminds me a little bit of, like, I mean, the flossing is a bit confusing with it, but he gives me a bit of like Steve from Sex and the City energy. Like, I don't know, like, I just like sweet, excitable, like happy to be there. Yeah. I don't know. I really, I mean, the flossing really, I was like, oh my God, is this 2019? And I'm with all the little boys that I nanny and all their friends at a birthday party. Like, that's all I could see was like the flossing to me it was a tough watch. It was.
I loved it.
But Danny is, I mean, I'm so here for it. He's a firefighter. He lives in Queens. Like, I think that's so, like, I just think he was a great cast. Definitely.
And next week, he's going to eat paper.
Oh my God. Yes. The final shot of him, like the way he opens his mouth too, to just put the whole, it's like the piece of paper is this big, and he, instead of folding it and putting it in his mouth, he just takes the whole thing and tries to like open his whole mouth around.
Do you think that's what he'll do at tribal council when he finally has to vote? Like, he'll be like, I'm sorry, Claire, you got to go. And he just shoves the paper into the urn.
Just know, like no like spatial awareness, like difficult. Well, I also loved his confessional where he's like, I can't wait to tell people about this. Never mind. No, I'm not gonna tell anybody.
Oh wait a minute. I'm not. It very much gave me vibes of Edge of Extinction when I think Devins is talking to War Dog, right? Of like, oh, I can't wait to be with you. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not. Screw you. Like, the self-not, I think, is one of my favorite stupid things that people do on Survivor.
Scally made a hilarious TikTok using that audio. And I was like, I'm going to use this audio for something else. Like, I saved Scally's audio of it. And I was like, this needs to be a viral TikTok audio. Like, I can't wait to tell everybody about this.
Yeah.
Never mind. No, I'm not.
Wait,
I can tell anybody about this.
Oh, wait. No, I'm not.
So good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was really fun. Again, yeah, it goes back to the whole character heavy season, right? Because I feel like that type of goofy, fun behavior is just like so enjoyable. Yeah, it's about a strategic thing, but like, I don't even care about the idol. I just care about his reaction to finding the idol because he's such a kooky personality, which I'm obsessed with.
And that definitely helped the episode overall, in my opinion, where I think you look at the skeleton and you're like, we spent half the episode on the bird cage and the idol finds. But I think you almost forget about it because the people that found the idols were Danny and Carolyn, who both did it in very fun ways. As Danny says, right, it's an old school idol in a new school fashion. And so I think like almost the new school way that these characters were stumbling upon this birdcage and interacting with the idol in very different ways, I think helped buoy seeing something that we have seen a million times at this point in Survivor.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
All right, well, let's move on here to talk about old things in new ways. We are bringing back a B&B staple for this week. We are, of course, doing Buff or Snuff, Survivor 44 edition. So for those that may not be in the know, those that might have been away at the summit for the past, 10 seasons that we have done this is a segment where we rate some of the fashion choices on Survivor, where we either give it a buff, a thumbs up, or a snuff, a thumbs down. I also got a picture, if people aren't watching the video, of the snuffer from Survivor 44. Good God, that looks incredible.
It's so cool. Like the dragon skull of it all, which again, I guess, so the theme is medieval.
I would imagine so, right? Between the armor that's randomly sitting there at Tribal Council, between, of course, the sword that Heidi had tucked into her belt like Errol Flynn.
Yeah, I need to see more of her too. That was fun. The shield.
And I know that people complain about, like, why is this random medieval theme happening? But, like, I am so happy they're at least trying things. Survivor 35, people might not remember, was a train wreck. I'm talking about the theme, of course, not of the season proper, but there was literally, the Tribal Council was a train track. What does that have to do with Fiji or Heroes, Healers, and Hustlers? I have no freaking clue. I think any idea of theming an aesthetic to a season has gone out the window a long, long time ago. So yeah, bring me to medieval times. Serve me up those turkey legs, baby. I'll dig in.
Yeah, I'm excited for the jousting challenge, which I'm sure we're going to get later in the season. That's safe.
Yeah, where Matthew's going to hold Ernest the stick bug and just charge forward.
No, Ernest.
All right, well, let's start rating these Survivor fashion choices. And of course, much like this episode, it begins with Carolyn. Now, Carolyn really stood out in this episode in many ways, both from an entertainment perspective, a strategic perspective, and a fashion perspective. Carolyn's overalls. Maggie, what are your thoughts on this? Buff or snuff?
Love overalls. Love an overalls moment. I also love that they're not, I don't think, denim, because denim out there seems like the worst possible material that you could have on a wet, sandy beach. They look like they're maybe, I'm sorry, I'm not good with fashion, so I don't know the name of the material, but they look like they're much lighter, lightweight, don't hold water. I love that they aren't blue and that they're, a plum sort of maroonish color. I love everything about them. I want them.
I think they're good from a practical perspective on Survivor, because as you lose weight, your pants aren't going to fit, right? But if you have built-in straps to hold your pants up, then you don't really have to worry about it. Now, I don't know how this fits in our whole, like, giant wear tiny clothing.
This is easy. Then you just keep, like, tightening the straps, right? So then it just comes up higher and higher until it's like, oh no, it's up to my nips.
Well, I think I don't know what
because you want them to shrink, right?
Yeah. Yes. Are they supposed to be tiny or giant? I can't remember where we landed on that.
No, because if they're giant, if they get bigger, then you're shrinking.
Right. You're going to look tiny.
I mean, what you could do is you obviously have multiple wardrobe choices on Survivor. We'll talk about this. Should you bring several different sizes of the same, like, zoot suit jacket? So you start off like one of, David Byrne with a giant suit that just hangs over with the droopy sleeves. And then as the game goes on, you just keep switching them out so they get shorter and shorter.
No, I think you want to do the opposite, because you want to be strong in the beginning with your tiny suit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
By the end, you're like, no, I'm not threatening individual challenges. I'm so tiny.
Oh, you want to Benjamin Button your size situation on Survivor, where you start big and then you get smaller as the game goes along.
Correct. Yes, you become less and less of a threat, right? Because you want to be strong in the beginning and then, like, tiny at the end. So just like
I'm sorry. I just, like, can't get over the idea of me getting the call that's like, you made it on Survivor. You got to go get your wardrobe. And me being like, all right, it's time for the zoot suit.
Very practical.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have to be like, oh, I'm a lounge singer, and this is what I usually wear. It's like Lil with the scout uniform.
Oh my God.
Well, to go back to Carolyn, additionally, when it comes to the practicality, it's got, I assume, if most overalls do, a lot of pockets. Also very helpful, which could have been helpful for hiding idol, because you get your pockets, get your front pockets, maybe some back pockets if you're lucky. Also, you don't even have to pocket it at all. You could just slip it underneath the fabric into your underwear, perhaps. So overall, 10 out of 10. I love this choice, both from an aesthetic and practical perspective. So definitely toot this one.
Yeah, I'm buffing the hell out of this. I mean, listen. Yeah. Iconic characters wear overalls on Survivor, right? Going all the way back to Big Tom. In the modern day era, we had Shan. Carolyn's is unique, right? Because I feel like outside of Geordie on Australian Survivor, we haven't had many, to your point, Maggie, like non-denim overalls. Like this new color overalls I absolutely love. It's a little more like understated, which I think greatly varies with Carolyn's personality. Like Liana says, it has a lot of uses as well. And I think it also invokes this idea of youth too. This is perhaps like a how do you do fellow kids type of wear of all Carolyn has to do is just put her hair in pigtails and she blends right in as one of Carson's classmates.
So great.
Yeah, I adore it. And I think it maybe is also one of the more practical pieces to wear on the island as well, because they're called coveralls for a reason, right? Like, I'm assuming they're able to keep out at least a little bit of cold at night. But like you said, Liana, you don't have to worry about like the pants losing any elasticity or anything because it's all adjusted straps. So low key, I think all new school Survivor players should be requesting overalls as part of their wardrobe.
I agree.
Could you imagine that if it's just 18 people all wearing overalls in their cast picture?
Well.
All right, next up. So this is a blink and you miss it, but I really wanted to point it out because it has very recent precedent in new school Survivor. Let's talk about Carolyn's number one ally here, one of her saving graces of this episode. In Jam Jam, I caught this moment, I don't know if you both did, where they mentioned Jam Jam's name and like a la Big Brother, they kind of do like the B-roll footage, right, of like showing who Jam Jam is. Jam Jam has made a hat. He made a hat out of palm fronds. He just seemed to do in his spare time, seemingly like he did talk about how adept he was to an island-based environment. Last episode, of course, with him growing up and currently residing in Puerto Rico. Liana, buff or snuff Jam Jam's palm frond? I guess is this a visor because there is no like crown to the hat?
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta buff this. It was, as you mentioned, a split second. And then that's all we saw in the episode. And I had a similar reaction to my mother on that flight. I went, ah, because it was just so exciting. It was fun to see another hat. It was fun to see Jam Jam of all people make the palm frond hat. This is definitely a buff for me.
What do you think, Maggie?
It's unbelievable. Like they're able to just whip something like this up. It's unbelievable. Buff hardcore. If I was out there and somebody made that, I would be like, please make one for me. I will get all the palm fronds and I'll do all your other chores while you make that for me. It's amazing. Yeah,
maybe that's part of Jam Jam's social game is like maybe he wants to mass produce hats and he wants to be sort of the fashion queen on the island.
Yeah, I mean, look, get your side hustle, okay?
Franny posted this week about how learning how to weave palm fronds is a very overrated skill in Survivor, how like it's a useless thing to do because rain gets through no matter what. This is something that's counter to that argument, right? Because if you can weave palm fronds in a certain way, baby, it's fashion. And you'll be able to turn looks and make something that can keep the sun out of your beautiful eyes.
It's practical. Again, it's gorgeous and practical. Love this.
Now, here is where we're going to make things a bit head-to-head, ironically enough, with pieces of headwear. Because like I said, recent precedent, I will give us each one buff and one snuff to delineate between Jam Jam and, of course, Cody's infamous palm frond hat. I think I'm going to give it to Jam Jam here. Maybe it's recency bias. I'll give Jam Jam the buff just because I love the smatterings of palm frond that are sticking out willy-nilly. It's a bit more avant-garde to me. I think Cody has things much more well-kept, and obviously it had more utility with getting the beads together to weave into the hat to get that idol before he ended up losing his vote. But at the same time, I kind of love the aspect that Jam Jam is going for more.
I'm 100 because we got to see these ahead of time. Mike did send us this little slideshow. I took a quick gander. It was an immediate yes for me with Jam Jams. It's the way that how cleanly the brim is woven together, whereas Cody's looks maybe a little bit more sturdy, but it's got a little, it's got some randoms, a little bit of edges that need to be cleaned up. So I'm giving this one to Jam Jam here.
What do you think, Maggie? Are you living for Jam Jam's hat over Cody's?
I am. And look at these two people, like two of the big personalities on their seasons. Like, I love it. The moral of the story is if you are cool, learn how to weave a palm frond hat before you go out there.
They say like learn how to fish, make a fire. I think become a haberdasher before you go out there, because learning how to make hats leans to getting more airtime on Survivor, it seems. We are 2 for 2 in that regard.
Yep.
I hope it becomes a bigger feature and it wasn't just that's all we're going to see of this hat. I hope we see more of it.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that Jam Jam will bring it into challenges and show off because, yeah, Cody's ended up becoming such a big plot point, right? And unfortunately, because we don't have the beads, though maybe Jam Jam would like weave the fake idol into his hat to try to, as Maggie was talking about before, present it as a real idol.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
So we could finally have what we couldn't get last season of someone trying to play a hat as an idol.
Ooh, a hat idol.
A idol.
A hat idol. I don't know. Whatever.
I'm pretty sure I read that in my Haftarah like 20 years ago at this point. All right, next up, I want to stick with Jam Jam here because this isn't something interesting that I didn't even notice until I was watching this the second time through. But like Jam Jam kind of has a purplish pinkish. I'm going to call it a bowling shirt. I know it's not a bowling shirt, but it kind of looks like a bowling shirt here. Liana, what do you think about it?
That was literally the first thought I had I was like, oh my God, he's going to go bowling. I want to go bowling with Jam Jam. This is so cute. It looks
going bowling with Jam Jam. He'd be like, I want to have fun. And then he'd just like throw the ball the other way into the crowd of people.
Yeah, he's got to get his name on the back. Obviously, the team logo, I would love to see. Oh
my God, imagine him and Carolyn as a bowling team and Carolyn just bowling.
That would be, I don't know. I just need to see. I'm imagining limbs everywhere. I need to see.
Strike! Wah! And she's just like throwing beer everywhere, crawling around on the oiled up floor.
Like in the lane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Maggie, what about you? Buff or snuff Jam Jam's Tribal Council? I guess this is like Tribal Council business, I suppose, business casual.
Buff. I want it. Like so far, all 3 items I would like to wear. Like I'm so into it. I love the color palette. This like lavender, light pink. Like it's just so great. I mean, I love.
From a color matching perspective, which one of the 3 tribes would you want to be on?
Obviously the purple tribe.
But you're weighing that against the fact that you may be going to tribal council again and again and again. Like if you had your choice right now.
I thought we were just doing it based on color.
Well, yeah. I think you're looking at I think that's an interesting choice though, right? Like how much do you value your own wardrobe possibilities against your own possible safety in the game?
Throw me in a freaking potato sack if it means me being safe and making the merge. I don't care what I wear. I thought
some people might disagree.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, look, then if that's what they prioritize, that's fine for them. And that's not my choice, but that's fine.
$1 million can go away like that, but those press photos are forever. And do you want to be looking good for the rest of the time?
Yeah. And I'm going to look fabulous in my potato sack. Okay.
I guarantee, like always the press photos, I guarantee that if I was ever on one of these shows, I would have the most horrible press photo. I'm like, I just know that my press photo, like the lighting would be weird and I would be like I'm like, just my luck. Like if I was on Big Brother and on the, the memory wall, I would have to stare at this terrible photo of myself all season. I mean, I don't think I would put a pot holder over it. Yeah. But like, I just know that like these people who are serving looks in their press photos, like Cassidy, I'm like, oh, I would be the opposite end of the spectrum. Like
I'm also like not photogenic at all. So, like,
so you would be like the Christian / Carson of just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Yeah.
Or like there's a contestant on the season of BB Can who looks like he's in pain in his photo. Like that would be me.
Which one?
Hope he looks like the way that he's smiling. It looks like he's smiling, but he also like stepped on something sharp at the same time. That's how I interpret it.
Maybe that's what you want to evoke, right? Of just like, listen, I will do anything to get another day ahead in the game. I will step on a thumbtack and get my picture taken.
I will go against doctor's orders and step on all the thumbtacks, Jeff. I'm out here to play the game.
I should also mention, I guess better late than never, that if you are listening to the audio-only version of this and you want to follow along, you can follow along with the slideshow, bit.ly/buffersnuff44, because I would imagine with Jam Jam's bowling shirt especially, people might have blinked and you missed it. So feel free to check it out in all of its glory. Let's see if the universal buffings continue here. So this has been dubbed, in my opinion, Claire's sit-out shirt. We have only seen her wear this in the 2 challenges that they have done where she has indeed sat out. It is a tank top with a cat on it. Liana, and a butterfly, I believe. Liana, buff or snuff this?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out is this like from a thing? Like I don't recognize the reference because it probably can't be copyright though, right?
No,
Otherwise
I wouldn't
they
think it
wouldn't
would be
allow them to have
Aristocrats
it.
because, I'm thinking about the stories of John Mish singing Aladdin on the island where, like, they would not put any Disney mentions. Though I guess Marianne did do that Disney Channel introduction a couple seasons ago, so maybe corporate lines have broken through or something.
Maybe. I don't know. It's definitely cute. I also love I don't know if she did this or if this is the way of the shirt, but the like cut V at the top for the neckline. I like that as well. I don't wear a ton of graphic tees, but I could make an exception for Claire's sit out shirt.
What do you think, Maggie?
Okay, so this is hard for me, okay? Because this happens to me when I'm online shopping a lot, where I am looking at the item of clothing on this beautiful model who has very different proportions from me. And I'm like, that's what I will look like in that outfit. And then I get it. And I'm like, well, I don't know why I thought this. My boobs are 3 times the size of this model. And she's 10 feet tall. And Claire looks like a freaking model. And she's adorable in this outfit. And I do not think that I would look like this in this cat shirt. I think I would look like I was cosplaying a kindergartner. Like Claire is a very cool person. But I think it would be rough on me. So I don't know. Okay, so what are we using for buffer snuff? Like, do I like the way that it looks on Claire? Because aesthetic, like I would put this on a Pinterest board, like this photo, and be like aesthetic of what I would like to look like. I will never look like that in that top, though. So I don't know what.
Well, listen, I'll make your decision even harder. I think I'm gonna snuff this one because I'm a dog person, and the weird thing is Claire is as well, right? The reason why Matthew brought up the dog of the situation was Claire's like, "Oh, I can't wait to get this dog." Yet she's the one wearing this cat shirt. Make up your mind, Claire. So I think I might have to snuff it just for the idea of like, all right, I don't inherently not want to work with cat people. Hell, I'm co-hosting a podcast with one. But at the same time, do I want to work with cat people from a survivor capacity? They're very clever. They're very wily. They're very independent.
I guess so.
I think I have to buff this because the whole vibe is so clear. Like the fact that she's like,
Pronounce
it's like
Claire,
a little
Maggie.
Yeah. It's like very cropped. The necklaces, the way that her buff is around her head, like the little drawstring, like Sophie shorts. Like this is so the moment that I do have to buff it, but out of context, the shirt itself, that would never be put on my body. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's the reason why Jeff made that remark? It wasn't about Claire sitting out. It was like, with that shirt, honey? Okay, good luck.
Yeah, he's become a fashion critic in the downtime of Survivor.
Yeah, considering he wears the same thing every day, yeah, he's one to judge people's outfits.
So
yeah,
to
cargo
me,
shorts.
Yeah. This goes against what we were talking about with making yourself look big and strong, right? Because I look at this and it's like, oh my gosh, cute little kitty. Like it's very like adorable and unassuming. And so from a strategic perspective, it goes against what we've discussed. So I think I'm sort of the opposite. I think I'm ultimately going to snuff it, but purely for strategic reasons, but I think it's very cute.
I really hope that Claire now wears this because she obviously knew coming into this challenge, okay, I'd be able to sit out. It was coincidental the first challenge, right? Because they didn't know about Bruce's medevac. I kind of hope that Claire uses this as the shirt she'll wear to signal every time she's sitting out a challenge.
Yeah, this is my sit-out shirt.
Like, it's like, honestly, it's not good for challenges. I don't want to get covered in mud or blood or someone else's blood. This is when I'm going to look cute on the bench.
Yeah.
I feel like Claire is so cool on social media that when she hears you say that, Mike, she'll be like, oh, I should have done that. You know, like I feel like there's like a meta like thing to her where I wouldn't put it past her to be like, oh yeah, this is the one that I'm not going to get dirty.
Well, let's move on to someone who sat out with her in episode 1. Now, unfortunately, poor Matthew, though he took his arm out of his sling to succeed uproariously in the episode 2 challenge, he did suffer that accident by slipping off the rock and dislocated and relocated his shoulder in the process, and was given this makeshift sling that was made out of, assumingly, his own plaid shirt here. So I guess, Liana, I don't know if we're buffing or snuffing the shirt or the choice to use it as the sling, but I guess we have to count this as like a fashion accessory, right?
Okay. Like, okay, they give them Band-Aids, right? Like actual Band-Aids. So, but it's not like they take their shirt, rip it up into like little pieces and like tie it around their wounds. So I'm just so curious as to the decision. Is that like, okay, dislocated shoulder though? Yeah, no, we're not going to give you anything for that. Professionally, instead, we're going to use your clothing. But for this like cut, we're going to give you a Band-Aid. I want to understand the decision behind it. But that being said, this gives me, I know it's a sling, but it gives me like, you know, when you're going to run away from home when you're a kid and you've got your stick and your little like bundle bag, your bindle. Yeah, that's what this is giving me. And I love it. Like Matthew's going to run away from home, from the tribe. He's like wrapped up all his stuff and he's like throwing it over his shoulder.
I'm riding the rails.
Yeah,
it's like Survivor 35. I'm getting on the train at Tribal Council.
I'm going to hustle my way out of this situation. Like that's the energy.
Because I'm not a healer. I'm not healing anytime soon.
Yeah. I know it's supposed to like help his shoulder or whatever. I just don't understand why they couldn't have given him like an actual sling. And where do we draw the line between we're going to make the castaways use their own stuff for this medical emergency and we're going to use our actual professional supplies? I don't know.
I would say that I would bet money on the fact that Matthew wanted to make his own sling and show that he could be the one to do it and was like really smart and resourceful and could do it. That would be my guess.
I could see it. I could see it.
He wants to be like the Aaron Ralston 127 hours. Like, look what I was able to fashion. I didn't cut my arm off, but basically close to it. I'm just intrigued as to like, I'm trying to think of a shirt and like how you get this design. Like, what are you tying off? Because it seems like the sleeve is like part of the end that's sticking out from his actual hand. So how did he construct the shirt in a way? The collar.
That's the collar, Mike.
Yeah, I think he tied the sleeves behind him.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, the body of the shirt is what's holding his arm, and then he's tied the sleeves, one here and then one around the shoulder. That's my understanding. Obviously, you know, medical knows more.
But you're from science, Liana.
Yeah, exactly. This is FDA approved, so it's totally cool.
Listen, I'm gonna buff this. Like you said, it feels like it says something about Matthew, both perhaps him sort of being that child that existed independently, if not running away to be with the boxcar kids, and this idea of like him trying to make it on his own. And it's something that I think is less medically official, so that Matthew can make it come across like, oh no, it's totally fine. Look, I made it out of a shirt. Like it's no big deal. I could do whatever I want to in the challenge. Don't worry about it.
He should have made this out of palm fronds. Where is the weaving of the palm frond sling? If we can make a hat, we can make a sling. That's what I want to say. So I'm gonna snuff it. But when he does use it as his little like bundle to run away from home, then I will buff it.
Now that is interesting because they say like go through your bags, right? This episode, dump out your bags. No one says Matthew, dump out your bindle. We need to see. Like, this could be a nice secondary hiding spot.
Wait, hold on. But like, yes, though, he could put his idol in there. Okay, never mind. I'm on the buff train. This is practical now. I love it.
Yeah, no one's gonna search your bindle. I was gonna say that's too many memories associated with that. We don't want to get into Matthew's personal stuff.
Yeah, no one does.
Well, we're gonna move to Matthew to Matt here. People might be thinking a lot about Matt Blankenship, particularly like his, sadness from his breakup, his very cute relationship with Franny. But this guy's also turning a couple of looks out on the island that we may not be aware of. So I got a couple for you. First is the more casual here. Maggie, how would you describe what Matt is wearing right now?
So it looks as though it's the fabric that your bath towels are. And it's a sweater that has like the way that your bath towels or like, beach towels have designs weaved on them in a different color. It's like that with turtles on it, I believe.
Yes. Okay. I'm getting turtle too.
Yeah. So the turtles look like they have, I don't know, been through some sort of mutation or accident because the limbs are a little less distinguishable.
I will say the turtles look sort of the way Matt's hair does, a bit disheveled, like they've been through a wind turbine or something. Yeah, that's what I would say.
On the other side.
Yeah, I think the whole vibe sort of like matches here.
I think it's supposed to be like when you have a turtle underwater and there's like the diffraction of the light and it's not like a clear outline and it's like a little all over the place. I think that's what it's going for, that you're like looking through the water at the turtles. That's my interpretation of this. I love this color, this like teal. I think it's very stunning. I don't know how much water this is holding because as we talked about denim being an issue, I feel like unless it is true towel material and can dry out pretty quickly, it looks heavy.
It doesn't.
I'm
not
wearing a towel on the island.
Yeah, it doesn't dry out.
Yeah, it takes a good amount of time for it to actually dry out. There's a reason why people only usually shower like once or twice a day, because otherwise it's a very like, have you ever dried yourself with a wet towel? It is one of the top 10 worst feelings in existence. And so I might snuff this just because poor Matt has to live with this. I'm glad that he's going to have other looks, as we're talking about. But between that and the Rorschach tests that are the random shapes that are turtle-like on his body, I'm not sure what to think of this.
I am going to buff it just because of this photo. Like, he looks so cool. He looks like a stylish tech bro. Like,
he does look very Silicon Valley.
Yeah, like the glasses, the little bit of disheveled hair because he was like up late working,
Yeah, he's saying like, yeah, we're insolvent now. Our banks just fell apart, but it's okay. I've got the clothing to wick up all my sweat.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to get another bank to bail us out. That's how it works with all these financial institutions. It's fine. So I'm going to buff it because of the photo specifically.
What about you, Maggie?
I'm going to snuff it. I don't like it.
Fair enough.
Well, maybe this next look will turn your tune a bit as we go from casual to something a little more businessy. Where the hell did this shirt come from?
I know. Wait, Mike, I swear to God, during the episode when he was doing this confessional, I was like, so he makes it the same, right? Because he looks completely different.
He looks like my dad.
Yeah.
Wait, so your mom is Carolyn and your dad is dressed like Matt?
Yeah. It's a weird family.
It's giving dad on vacation at a White Lotus resort in Hawaii.
I was going to say, I was thinking the opening credits of the White Lotus, that pattern is Matt's shirt, to describe it for people that are just listening along.
Yeah, definitely. And now he is where this shirt also appears to be too big for him. Mm-hmm. How does that factor in to anything? Did he bring a smaller size that he is then now going to be less threatening? I feel like you should still be in your tiny shirt era, but like, good for him.
The good news is, because of just the absolute, bevy of trees, an entire forest that is on his shirt, he can blend in so easily on his environment, right? If he wants to make a spy shack, he doesn't need to dig anything or climb up in anything. He just needs to stand there. And people will be like, okay, we can hide behind these trees. No one will notice when we talk strategy.
I mean, I actually heard that the Army is looking into research funded, in part by the idea of this shirt, right? Like, this is pure. I actually didn't even know Matt was here in this picture. I just thought, oh, it's a picture of the jungle.
Wait,
that's weird,
what is Matt's floating head and arms doing? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's weird that you would pull this picture. I don't even see an outfit. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna buff it. I think for that. I'm
no
gonna buff it.
My dad. I snuff it.
I think this says a lot more about you than it does about Matt. No,
Yeah.
I'm buffing it for the exact reason you said. This is the closest we'll get to Survivor green screen, and I adore that idea of like now you can TikTok Photoshop Matt into anything.
Oh no, just rotoscope
where
him
is
in
Matt
anywhere.
from?
He's from California.
Oh, he is. I was about to say, because this is the most Midwestern I'm trying to look nice look ever.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm buffing it. It reminds me of home.
You can look at him and see home.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we have one last thing, and this is a little unconventional, but we do this sometimes. And this was something that was brought up to Liana and I in accordance to some arguments she and I may have had in the preseason. So Kane, we didn't know about this because of his preseason photos, has an arm tattoo that seems to be, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong here, either one of you, the evolutionary chart?
Yeah, and Bigfoot is right there in the middle. That's Bigfoot.
That's
right
a
there.
No, that's a caveman. That is not Bigfoot.
That's how Bigfoot walks. That one, the fourth one.
Wait, but
That's
are you
Bigfoot.
saying Bigfoot is a caveman, or are you saying Bigfoot walks like a caveman?
Look, okay, I'm not an evolutionary biologist, so I don't know the origins of Bigfoot, but he does walk like anyway. It's fine.
We're not
Will you
producing
do
any more
a demonstration, Liana?
No.
Let's make that 2 out of 3 B&B podcast to see if Liana does a demonstration of Bigfoot walking.
So
I would love to
frustrating.
see it, just like here in real time. I would love to see it.
Well, you can see it perfectly on Kane's arm tattoo with the fourth. Well, that's how Bigfoot walks. So obviously I'm buffing this. I love this so much. I think it's fantastic.
I'm just really intrigued as to like what the purpose of this is, right? Because Kane is a law student. He is not scientific whatsoever. Was this like the result of a bet? Was it him truly feeling like he is Encino Man and is like an unfrozen caveman? Why does he have literal ink invested in the evolutionary scale?
He's just trying to reverse Benjamin Button, through his way through life.
I mean, it is interesting, right? Because I feel like the evolutionary chart goes from left to right. Kane is going a bit Hebrew here and going from right to left unless he's thinking that he's going to start a human and then devolve into what looks like a defunct Disney mascot all the way on the right.
I thought it was like a dragon.
Ooh,
the far one on the right. Because it looked, maybe it's just because of the dirt, like it's kind of smudgy, but it looked like one of those or maybe like a lion head logo kind of thing. Like on a crest. Maybe I'm just stuck in the medieval times theme of the season, but...
Yeah, I just find it so interesting. And I guess it makes sense, right? You're going from the small part of your arm down to the bigger part. I guess it would make sense to have it go from small to big rather than the opposite. But yeah, unless it's mirrored. Maybe the camera, sometimes mirrors things. Maybe this is an example of the camera mirroring something.
Yeah, but what do you think? It flipped his whole arm around? Like
technology
that his hand
can do a lot of
actually...
things.
Okay, yeah, all right. I don't think that's the way that mirroring works, but fine.
Maggie, what do you think about Kane's arm tattoo?
Sure. Yeah.
He's like, let's
Great.
do it.
I love fun tattoos like this. I when I was younger, I think was more like, tattoos, like, what did you get it for? Like, what does it mean? But like, this could mean nothing. He could have just been like, this is cool. And it is cool.
It is cool.
I'm into it.
Listen,
yeah.
In the fall of 2020, I verbally signed any rights I had away to ever object to any silly, goofy tattoos on someone's arm. So therefore, I am forced to buff this. I am glad that Kane now joins the arm tattoo club. Liana, how would you rate Kane's game on this scale? Where is he right now?
Oh, poor Kane. Poor sweet baby Kane. Yeah, he's at the dragon head at the beginning.
at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, look, so first of all, he was the only one on the outs. As far as we could tell strategically, he didn't make a lot of inroads trying to throw anybody else under the bus. And he was out like caught searching for an idol because as we know from, Matt being, or Matt, whichever, Orange Matt being like, oh, he's not looking for an idol. There's no, or he's out there looking for an idol. There's no wood in the trees, which is weird because trees are made out of wood, but that's fine. So yeah, no, he's definitely on the outs. Like the next time they go to tribal council, he is in the most danger.
What do you think, Maggie?
Yeah, I mean, I would put him like maybe second from the end. Like he's not like totally out, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go even a step further and say third from the end. I agree he is in danger, and I do feel bad for him that he is the only person left who like voted for Brandon and got the entire brunt of everything. When he could look around and say like, half this tribe didn't vote.
Yeah,
they could have all voted for you. And so he is left holding the bag right now. But I think he is kind of true to the caveman that I picked for him in this hunter-gatherer phase of trying to scrounge around for idols and whatever he can get. Hopefully he finds something. We talked about this last week. We still don't know if the RHAP idol is going to be re-hidden, considering that it was found in the birdcage. Like, is that it for the RHAP idol? We shall see, but hopefully we'll get many more opportunities to stare at this Kane arm tattoo and that he won't go extinct anytime soon.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, Maggie, this was an absolute delight. Always is to have you on the B&B. Just the best.
There was one moment, honestly, when Liana was talking strategy, and I really was just like, I wish she would go on one of these shows because it would just be so amazing to watch her mind work, like in the DR. Like, I didn't want to cut you off from your like very beautiful like strategy soliloquy, but I was just like, oh, and she would be so entertaining. I was like, she's too busy. She's too busy being in science, but like, oh, it would be so good.
I would be out there Benjamin buttoning all day, 15 different sizes of one pair of pants. Yeah, you best believe.
I would need it to happen, and I would need to interview you preseason just to see like this would be the Paul Rudd, right? Like, look at us. How did we get here?
Who did that? Not me.
Well, Maggie, is there anything that you would like to highlight from a charity or a cause perspective as people look outside of the fashion and the other malarkey we talked about on the B&B towards more serious causes that are out there in the universe?
Of course. We just passed International Women's Day, and I think that everybody should look into Planned Parenthood, especially their local chapter, so that you're supporting local women's health, especially in a time when reproductive rights are being threatened by our government, which is essential to women's health care everywhere.
Absolutely. So feel free to check that out, especially a local chapter, as Maggie talked about. This was so great. But of course, Maggie, you are doing a bunch of stuff around these podcast atmospheres. I know that obviously another Bravo show has soaked up a lot of attention, but you are still covering The Real Housewives with Jacob Jones, correct?
Yes, I was covering Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. The season is now over. Jen Shaw is officially in jail, posting Instagram slides from notes that she's written to her husband that he's typing up and putting on. It's so wild, Mike. Maybe we shouldn't. Honestly, maybe the problem is like Jen Shaw sucks so bad. Like she defrauded elderly people and then like threw around her wealth on this show. Like she's the textbook definition of a narcissist. So it's not fun to get on and talk about her because you're just like, this person is evil, like to her core. Of course, like the real victims here are the people who were defrauded and her poor family, you know, both her children and her husband. Like the whole thing is just sad, but it is scandalous, like scandalous. But with all this Vanderpump Rules news, I literally messaged Haley Strong on Instagram and was like, please explain. I've been listening to all the podcasts. I started Vanderpump Rules from the beginning because I was like, I'm so left out. I need to know what's going on. Wild. But yeah, so we've stopped doing Real Housewives for the season. We may be coming back for Ultimate Girls Trip, may not. Like we still haven't fully figured that out yet. Obviously Big Brother Canada is on, but like I don't
could have fooled me with the way people are not talking about it.
I haven't even watched the first 2 episodes. I listened to the update with that Puya and Taryn did with the daily doubles or whatever they're called.
Digital dailies. Yes. The daily doubles.
Dailies.
Yeah.
Jeopardy. Somebody tweeted, I wish I could give you credit because it was funny, but they said the podcasters doing updates of the digital dailies is like the musicians playing on the Titanic as it sinks. Like Taryn and Puya did such a good job. They did such a good job. But like, I mean, HelloFresh, like, come on, Big Brother Canada. So I don't even know if I'll be on there. I don't know, you know, I'll have to catch up. But thank you guys for having me. It was just so lovely. My sweet friends. This is just always the best time.
The pleasure was all ours. Liana, I know you are up to your neck in coverage of reality television, including talking a lot of fashion on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes. So we are covering the season 15, one of the greatest lip syncs we just saw last night as of recording this. So fun. So that was very enjoyable. A comedy night gone wrong for some. So Beth, Amon, and I are going to break all of that down. Of course, Masked Singer is also going on. Puya and I are covering season 9. And then speaking of Big Brother Canada, I have watched the first 2 episodes. So I'm going to be on the recap for the Tuesday episode, just trying to keep up. And with whatever the heck these digital dailies are. So far, we've had 2 drops, both about 2.5 hours of some importantness, some not importantness.
We had 2 drops?
We've had 2 drops. We had a drop late last night at about 11:52, I believe, Eastern time. So they're really trying.
I love it, though. The Daily Doubles sound a lot like my podcast. 2.5 hours. Yep. Some of which makes sense, and a lot of it is just nothing. So exactly. I can't really insult it without insulting myself.
The only difference is you drop far more podcasts than I believe we're going to get for these digital dailies. It was originally Monday through Friday. They dropped the Monday through Friday, so we don't know if it's going to happen on the weekend or not, and when we're going to get them or where. It's just definitely a mystery. So we're just all sort of hanging in to see what happens with that. But you can follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with everything at Liana RHAP.
And you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. I mentioned it before, but had a really great chat with Helen. Helen is just a lovely person. You could tell from talking with her, again, like the potential she had to really go far in the game. And it was just a few things that went wrong that led to her boot. She also clarifies a lot of things, like, for example, Sarah telling her and Carson about her not having a vote that led Carson to flip, how she did not suspect that Carolyn had the idol. It turns out that that scene of them finding the empty bag in the cage actually happened the morning after Carolyn put the bag back and she was out on a confessional. So these people do not look like dum-dums saying like, well, let's not blame the only person that was out. No, there was a potential alibi for her, but otherwise a lot of really great stuff in general from Helen. So check that out over at parade.com. Over at parade.com, also, I did an interview with Gail Simmons because the premiere of Top Chef World All-Stars season 20 premiered. So that was awesome. I also talked with the EP of the new Netflix show Outlast, which is one of the wildest reality shows I have ever seen. I'm covering it in part on Nothing But Netflix this weekend with Rob and Chappelle. It's a really wild concept where it's your typical survival show where people are surviving in the wilderness in Alaska, but they form into 4 different teams. And to make it to the end, you have to be a part of a team. And it resorts in some of the like most Machiavellian psychological warfare I have ever seen in television. It like goes in such an absolutely wild direction. I heavily encourage people to check it out. It's only 8 episodes, like 40 minutes a piece on Netflix. I think we're going to do like a follow-up podcast as well after we cover the entire season because I won't spoil it. I won't spoil anything.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, Lincoln and I are watching this. Lincoln, we're watching something.
No, like I won't spoil anything for it, but like it is absolute wackadoo. So check that out. Truly get a study in the lows that human behavior can hit if you already haven't gotten a lesson in that in like the past 7 years or so. But other than that, doing a bunch of stuff on post-show recaps, The Mandalorian, Star Trek Picard, Heroes, The Last of Us is coming to an end this coming season. So it's going to be sad to bid that show adieu, but many more will take its place. Speaking of taking its place, next week, we'll have a guest in the place of Maggie as we keep rotating through. Very excited for this. She welcomed me into her interview on the night that she won $1 million on Survivor by singing the B&B theme song. Marianne O'Ketch, the winner of Survivor 42, is going to be making her B&B debut next week. We will be recording a bit earlier in the week, actually on like Thursday night. Not sure when it's going to be released correspondingly. So apologies if we don't get it to any like hot button news items that come out in the interim over the Survivor weekend. But I'm so excited. Maggie, you got to be the sandwich in between two Canadian reality TV winners.
How thrilling, you know? And we got to play Sushi Go with her a couple weeks ago. Wow, what a great get, you guys. Good guess.
Yeah, so super excited with Marianne next week. Of course, if you have any game ideas, feel free to send them in, rhapbnb@gmail.com, or tweet us using hashtag rhapbnb. We'll try to weave them in along the season, like Jam Jam's hands making a palm frond hat. We are accepting to any and all games over the course of this season, but considering how much fun things have been so far, I can't wait to see where we go from here, both from the material on the show proper as well as the games on the B&B. That's going to do it for this week on the RHAP B&B. Special thanks to Scott St. Pierre for editing everything behind the scenes, and One From America for his fantastic theme song. Liana and I will be back next week with Marianne O'Ketch breaking down episode 3 of Survivor 44. Until then, we'll check you out at your next stay.